What's up YouTube? It's Noah with Royal Nation Creations, and in today's video I just want to talk about some of the things I wish I would have knew when I first started breeding snakes, and some of the things that I learned along the way that can maybe help some of you guys that are just getting started. So let's go ahead and get into it. Alright guys, the first thing I'd like to talk about is a mistake that I definitely made when I first started. I tried going the quantity over quality route, and I just produced it. I purchased a lot of snakes and produced a lot of clutches, but I had no path really that I was going down. So anyone that's new, I'd recommend, if you're just getting started, sit down and come up with a plan of things that you like, and things that you'd like to produce over the next 5 to 10 years, and just set yourself a little plan and lay it all out on paper. That way you know what route you're going and you're not just winging it, because I definitely think in this industry you need to have a set goal and you need to chase after that, because you can fall down that trap real easy where you just start producing a lot of stuff and veering off path. So that's what I would say, is just set a goal and just try to follow it, and I think if you do that, you'll definitely be successful. Alright guys, up next I just wanted to talk about tracking the husbandry of your collection. I think it's very important to do. So I know some people do it on paper, and that's what I tried to do when I first started. But then when I found a program that I really liked, it's definitely been a game changer. It's made everything so much easier. I first started with Husbandry Pro and I liked it and everything, but then I seen Clutch and decided to try to make the switch, and I'm definitely happy I am. I love all the features on there and everything's so simple. You can just input all your animals on there, and then it'll make these labels for you, and you can just print them out. And I just used little card holders and put them on the fronts of the bins and slip the papers into there. And as you can see, you have the little barcodes in the bottom right. You can just pull up your camera on your phone and put it over that barcode and click the link, and it'll bring you straight to that animal on the app, so that if you need to input anything, if you're doing pairings or just anything in general that you want to track with them, and they keep track of all the breedings, your pairings, all that on there, and it's just very simple. I like it. And they have an incubator area on there, so you can see how long your eggs have left until they hatch. And then once they hatch, you can put in pictures of each individual hatchling and what exactly they are. It'll actually help you figure out on there, based on your pairings, the different possibilities for what the babies could be. So yeah, overall it's just a very nice app to use, and it's very affordable. So anyone getting started, I definitely recommend looking into some sort of tracking program, whether it's Husbandry Pro or if you decide to use Clutch. But I'd check both of them out and see which one you like better, and then go from there. But yeah, definitely look into that. Alright guys, up next I just want to talk about rack systems for if you're just getting started. Back when I first started, I tried to go a little bit cheaper route, and I bought a custom or a homemade built rack off Craigslist, and it worked good for about 3 or 4 months. And then one day I went in there and something had happened with the heat tape, and it actually started melting and burning the plastic on the rack. So I'm thinking that what happened was the person that wired it up didn't know what they were doing, and eventually it just failed. So as you can see now, I've switched to all ARS racks, and honestly that's been the best thing that I've ever done. They work great. If anything, like say one of the heat panels goes bad, you can just pop it off and throw a new one on there. You don't have to reheat tape the whole thing. So if you can afford it, I definitely would recommend going with a good rack system off the start. And if you decide to go the cheaper route and possibly build your own or buy one off Craigslist that's already pre-built, I would definitely look through it and make sure everything's good with it, so that you don't run into the same issue I did, because it can be dangerous for the animal, or you just don't want a fire happening because they didn't know how to wire it. And then, like I said, I would buy a good thermostat, because the thermostat's like the main part. It's going to control everything. So you don't want to cheap out and just get a cheap one and run into issues with it. So I'd look through your different options online and pick one that has good reviews, and go from there. But yeah, that's what I would recommend as far as rack system goes for your snakes. All right, guys, the next thing I'd like to talk about is incubation. Personally, I've never had any issues with incubation, because right off the start, that was a key thing that I wanted to buy, is a good incubator, because I see a lot of people online try to do the homemade ones, and they'll get through the whole process of breeding the snakes and getting eggs, and then they'll put them in the incubator, these homemade ones that they're building, and for some reason they'll have a failure in there, and then the eggs will go bad. I'm not saying that happens to everybody who builds them, but I have seen it multiple times on different forums online. So that just wasn't a chance I was willing to take. So I spent the extra money, and as you can see, I went with the Sea Serpents incubator. I have the big one right there, and then over here I have the smaller one. That's just the one I started with, and I use it for backup in case I end up with too many clutches. I can throw some in there. But they're nice. They come with the thermostat and everything. You are going to pay a little bit more for a good incubator than you are if you obviously just try to get like a little cooler off of Marketplace or something and try to home make one. But like I said, it just wasn't a risk I was willing to take. If I'm going through the whole process of breeding and getting eggs and everything, there's no way I'm taking a chance on a cheap incubator that I don't know for sure is going to work. But you could always, if you do want to build one, try to just get it all built before your eggs are expected, and get it set up. And for the first month or two, just turn it on and run it and make sure all your temperatures are good in there. I even did that with my Sea Serpents one that I bought. I turned it on about a month before I was expecting any eggs. I do that with all the new ones I buy too, and just make sure that everything's working in there. And you don't want to, at the last minute when you get a clutch of eggs, to notice something's wrong with the incubator and have to figure out how to fix it. You just want to make sure everything's good, and you're going to be smooth sailing from there. So yeah, personally, if I was you and you have the money, I would buy a good incubator. And like I said, I would recommend Sea Serpents. I've had nothing but good luck with them. That the seal around it is really good. It holds temperature. Everything's perfect. So that's just something I want to talk about, was incubation, because I think it's very important. All right, guys, the next thing I wanted to talk about was finding a supplier to supply you with food for your snakes. When I first started, I had a lot of snakes, and the guy that I was buying rodents from just out of nowhere quit supplying me. He couldn't keep up with how much I needed, and you don't want to run into that. Like, say you come up on a feeding day, if your feeding day, say a Friday, and you reach out to them and they don't reply, or they just don't have enough rodents for what you need. So I'd say you want to find someone who is a reliable source in your area, because at least in my area, we had a really hard time finding somebody who could supply us with as much as we needed. So I had to drive about an hour and a half every Friday just to pick up rodents. So I decided to buy this shed and then build all these racks and start producing my own rodents. That way I didn't have to rely on anybody. And I know everybody might not have the space at home to have a shed like this, but even if you could maybe do like a smaller operation of rodents, just enough to supply your collection, I think it could be very beneficial. Because one thing I've liked about it is, whether I have hatchling ball pythons, adults, I always have every size rodent that I need. So I could just come out here, look through the bins, pick exactly what I need, and always have the correct sizes. Because that's another thing too. With the suppliers, sometimes say you need a medium rat, and they'll say they don't have that, and they'll just give you a bunch of smaller ones, but they don't tell you that until they get there to drop the rodents off, and then there's nothing you can do with those rodents, so you're just stuck with them. Another thing I did over here is I built this little metal bin from Tractor Supply, I pull all my feeders out of the racks and put them in there. So I know I feed on Fridays, so I know every Friday when I need to just grab some feeders, I just go straight over to that big metal bin, and all that's the feeders, so that I'm not pulling from my racks and messing up my colonies. So yeah, that's something I definitely look into is before you get too far into it, make sure you have a rodent breeder near you that can supply you. That way your snakes have food. And obviously if you have a smaller collection, you could always go the frozen thawed route. But personally, with as many snakes as I have, it'd get way too expensive and take just a little bit too long to thaw that many rats. So that's definitely an option though, like I said, if you're a smaller breeder. But yeah, definitely look into that and make sure you have a food source. All right, guys, that's pretty much going to do it for today's video. That's just the things that if I could go back that I wish I knew when I first started breeding ball pythons. So yeah, like I said, if you're wanting to get into this, just sit down one day and set yourself up a plan going into it with the route that you want to go based off of things that you like and you think you'll enjoy, and just stick to the plan. And I think if you do that, you'll be very successful. And another thing, like I said, if you have the money, I would just invest in good quality equipment, and I think you'll run into a lot less issues. But that's going to pretty much do it for today's video. If you guys could like, subscribe, and share, I'd greatly appreciate it, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day.